One of the greatest players to ever lace up a pair of skates. He recently completed his 37th season of playing professional hockey. Over his legendary career, he spent parts of 24 seasons in the National Hockey League, and his 1,921 career points are the second most in league history, only behind Wayne Gretzky. He's a two-time Stanley Cup champion, a five-time winner of the Art Ross Trophy as the NHL leading point scorer, and he holds the New York Rangers records for goals and points in a single season. I had the privilege to be his teammate for my first 3 seasons in the NHL with the Rangers, and today I'm lucky that he's here with me for this Rangers Centennial Conversation. Welcome, number 68, Jaromír Jágr. Take us back to when you started playing the game back in Czechoslovakia. What inspired you to start playing the game?
Hank, I'm gonna be 54, so he said, take me back.
It's a long time, I know. Try.
It's 50 years. I don't know if I can remember everything, but I was born in a small town, Kladno, and there was, in Czech Republic or Czechoslovakia back then, there was two popular sports. It was hockey and soccer, and and my dad always said, if you because there was during the communist years, my dad always said, if you want to see the other countries, so if you want to have a better life than me, you gotta play sport. And I was born very heavy. I have 58 centimeters, over 13, 14 pounds. So, I was very heavy. So, my parents decided, let's put him in hockey and see what happened. And it worked for me. We were living on a farm, so I was working out on a farm. I was pretty strong since I was a kid. And one day, when I was 7 years old, my dad told me, you gotta, I was talking to somebody, and he told me that, to get stronger and faster, you gotta start working out with your body. So do squats and push-ups, and I started doing that, and I started doing the 1,000 squats a day, a lot of push-ups, 500 push-ups a day, and all of a sudden I just take off. And I was 7 years old, and I became a professional when I was 16 years old. That was my first professional game in the Czech league. I was 16.
Who was your idol growing up? Did you have idols?
Well, I changed them. My idols were always the best players in the Czech Republic. So I always followed the Czech Republic, the Czech national teams. I had a lot of idols. I changed it, but it was the World Championship 1985, and the Canadian team. They came to the Prague, and they had all the young superstars. So Ron Francis was there, and Stevie Eisenman, and number 66, Mary Lemieux, and he was the tallest, he was the youngest, and I saw the game Russia against Canada. Canada won 3-2, and Mary Lemieux back then scored 2 goals when he was 19 years old, and since then I said I want to be like him. So it was my idol since I was 13.
So let's fast forward. You get drafted by the Penguins.
Exactly.
Was that the team you wanted to play for?
Well, actually, well, I didn't know he was playing for Pittsburgh. I found out when I draft. Back then during the communist years, nobody can talk about NHL because there was some players who defect, and it was kind of, I wouldn't say illegal to talk about NHL, but nobody really talked about NHL. There was, you always follow the national team, but never NHL. And when I got in the draft, I found out Mary Lemieux was playing for Pittsburgh Penguins, and they were drafting number 5. So, they told me, oh, you're not gonna last that long. So everybody thought I'm gonna be picked 3rd or 4th, and somehow I got lucky and I got picked 5th.
But as a kid, did you dream about playing in the NHL?
No, not really. Absolutely nothing. No, I didn't know anything about it.
Playing for your country.
First time I found out about NHL was at the World Championship. I was playing World Championship for Czech Republic when I was 18, and I was sitting on a bus with Bobby Holik, and he's 1 year older. He was drafted by Hartford Whalers, and he had hockey news, and he was reading English, and he translated for me, and we were talking about NHL. That's the first time I heard about NHL from Bobby Holik.
So you didn't even watch highlights?
Never.
I remember as a kid I could watch this.
Well, it was on our TV wasn't anything, nothing. The first NHL game was actually when I played on it. It was 1990. That was the first NHL game ever televised on Czech TV. That's why I was become kind of so popular, because everybody was watching NHL, and me as 18, we won the Stanley Cup. So the first time they show NHL hockey was there was a final, Pittsburgh against Minnesota. That's the first time they show NHL hockey in Czech Republic.
Are you proud of that? That's amazing.
Well,
it opened the door.
It's timing. Everything was the timing.
Yeah.
Like for me, it was perfect timing. Even 1989, late in 1989, there was a revolution in Czech. The communism went down, so you could go anywhere. And I was just become 18 years old, so I could be drafted. I didn't have to defect. The timing was perfect for me.
And let's talk about that move then, coming from Czechoslovakia at the time. I mean, that's a massive change in lifestyle. Whether you remember those first couple of years in the U.S., language, culture, was that challenging for you?
Well, totally different, of course, no question about it. I didn't speak any English. There were some teams that didn't want to draft me because they were afraid I will have to go to the army. It was a 2 years army for our country, and they were kind of afraid. I didn't speak any English. My few years, it was kind of tough. I was homesick. It's the first time I was, without my parents and my friends in different country. So, first few years, it was kind of tough.
And you touched on it earlier about you looked up to Mario a little bit, and suddenly you go there, you win back-to-back cups. And how was that experience to play with Mario? And
well, I thought it's going to be easy. You come in the league and you win twice in 2 years, and we have, I was kind of lucky too. I just don't want to repeat a word all the time, but I was lucky, and there's the way you look at it. If you come to the team, there's not many good players. You might start playing power play right away. You might be on a first and second line. It wasn't it wasn't me. Like in Pittsburgh, was so many great players. I was on third and fourth line, like fourth line most of the time. But on the other side, you got so many players you can learn from. And it's just you just have patience and timing and learn from. And I think it was perfect for me. When I look at it right now, I always said, it's to play for Pittsburgh Penguins. It's like when you go to school, you got perfect teachers and teach you everything. It's a lot better than you go to the school and you right away, as 18 years old, you're the best player there. Who are you gonna learn from? And that way, I always said it's better, and that's what happened to me.
And because you never watched NHL hockey, were you surprised or even shocked in how the game was played compared to back in Europe?
Well, Craig Patrick was the guy who kind of put together the 1980 Olympics team in the U.S. Badger Bob, he was a very smart coach. So they kind of have a patience with me. For me, it was different because all the goals I scored in Europe, I was deking the goalies. I was able to go around the defenseman. All of a sudden, I couldn't do it. But because I didn't have to do it in Europe, I didn't have a very good shot. I didn't have a wrist shot. I didn't have a slap shot at all. But they realized that, and they, Rick Kehoe was the assistant coach, and he was the guy who was a goal scorer in NHL, and he was the guy who teach me how to shoot a wrist shot, and I have to shoot 500 pucks every day after the practice. But it went so quick because I was pretty strong, so it went so quick. And in 2 years, 3 years, I felt like I had one of the best shots in NHL. So, but they were very smart. That was again, I was lucky to become in a team that was very smart. They have a lot of patience, and they know what I need, what I have to learn, and where I have to be better.
Let's fast forward a little bit to the Rangers. And we had the lockout back in 2005. It was an interesting team. Maybe the expectation wasn't that high for our group. They missed the playoffs many years, and obviously you, the big star, tried to lead that team. What do you remember of that year coming out of the lockout and sort of, you know, what I remember is we had half the Czech national team.
Yeah, it was a lot of
on our
Czechs.
group.
But you know, if we have to go, you know, 6 months before that year, year before that, I was traded from Washington to Rangers, and everybody knew it's going to be a lockout. 2005, everybody knew it. So there's a lot of teams and a lot of owners who didn't want to take the risk to have a high guy with the salary on a team. So when Washington decided to trade me, I would say there was only one team who was kind of interesting, and it was Rangers. I was there, you know, 6 months before you came and played, and you're right. There was seven guys from Czech, you know, one Slovakian kid. So, you know, there was interesting group. You were European too. Mike Nylander, other Swedish guy. So I would say we have half and half, maybe more than half European. And I remember that nobody really gave us any chance. We're gonna do something. Everybody saying we're gonna finish last in NHL, and I remember Larry Brooks write it down, you know, the projection for the season, and you know, he put us on a third place, the last place in NHL, and I cut it from the newspaper and I put it on my stall where I was sitting to kind of take as a motivation, and we did pretty good actually that year.
I mean,
Plus, Tom Rainey was the first year for him to be a head coach.
be the head coach. But you had an incredible year. You set a new record for goals and points for the Rangers. I mean, original 6 franchise. Does that mean anything to you?
That's mean a lot to me.
Back to Jágr, score! Jaromír Jágr has broken the Ranger record with his 53rd goal in a season.
I'm very proud of that, because when you look at how many great players played for New York Rangers, and you know, it's history, 100 years. You already said that. So to me, that was probably the best. I'll have to say one of the best seasons, but you know, to do it in New York, because it's pretty tough to do it in New York. You know, you got a lot of other stuff in New York, and there's a lot of players who come with the big numbers, and all of a sudden come here, the numbers not the same, and you know, that's for me, it's one of the best seasons I ever had, and I have so much fun too, and nobody expect us to do anything, and it was so much fun. Let me tell you, it was so much fun.
And you talked about how much that meant to you. What about being named the captain for Original 6? What did that mean to you?
Well, I didn't even know about it. They didn't tell me that. There was before the first game, I had nothing on a jersey, and I didn't know. They didn't want to tell me before, and they knew I was going on ice as the last guy. So Glenn Sader comes to me and put a C on it. And then
There was no discussion.
No, absolutely nothing. And I didn't know about it. Didn't want to tell me. Didn't tell anybody. And, that's pretty special too.
Defense, here comes Jágr. Moving in with Nylander. Jágr cuts in, his shot, score! First shot of the season goes in.
Just again thinking about that season. It was a pretty young team, and to learn from you and the way you led that team was incredible. And did you feel any extra pressure just because it was you, and then it was such a big gap to anybody else?
You know what? I don't think it was just me and the gap. I don't look at it that way, because there was so many good players, but they were underrated. Nobody really give them, they didn't have the name, but they were good players. They were good players.
Great group too. We had so much fun.
Yeah, we had so much fun, but they were, because maybe they were Europeans. Maybe nobody really give them credit as a good hockey players, but it was just perfect, And it was your first season, and Mikey Nylander, for me, that was one of the best centermen I played with. Offensively, the way he played, and the way he could play 1-on-1, and it's make my job a little bit easier, because I know he can beat guys 1-on-1. Once you can beat guys 1-on-1, you can you make everything easier around you. So we had a good bunch of players.
Yeah. What do you remember about the stick salute? how that came about. I mean, there's been rumors maybe Casper said he came up with it.
You know what? I would say Casper comes to me. I would say so. And the reason is, we were in Europe, and you know, in Europe, that's what you do after the season. It's a big celebration. You kind of celebrate with the fans. It's totally group of friends. It's different than here, and it's kind of, we were kind of the first team to bond to each other. You know, the fans and the hockey players. And before, I remember that, like, before you couldn't even, not you couldn't, but nobody really celebrated a goal. Like, only 5 guys celebrated on the ice, and you act like, you know, to respect to the other team, you don't do any celebration. You don't jump on the glass like Ove does. You know, back then nobody really do it, you know. And because we came from the Europe, when you celebrate so much, I think too much, when you celebrate with the fans and after the game, and, you know, goalies, they celebrate extra, you know, in Europe. And Casper said, I remember that he comes to me and said, listen, let's do it in the middle like we do in Europe.
Do you remember when we did it for the first time?
Yeah, I remember that. They opened the practice for the fans, and Tom Rainey said, let's say hi to the fans. We kind of be in the middle. We did it, and then we did it at the game.
You played a few years here in New York, but and you played such a long career in the NHL. But is there one moment that stands out to you as a New York Ranger, or a feeling that you remember playing at the Garden?
You know, playoffs game at the Garden. That was special.
And it's taken away by Jágr. Jágr to the empty net. Score!
To score number 50, I think Adam Grace had a 52 or 53, and you know, and I beat it on the road, but I tied it at home. That was pretty special.
And after the race, he was one unhappy guy. Jágr scores! There's a happy guy. The Rangers have tied it on Jaromír Jágr's 52nd goal of the year.
I remember, and the third one, we played Philadelphia, and the rivalry was always there. Philly against, you know, the Flyers against Rangers. That was always special game. And we lost that game, but I scored a hat trick. And you know, everybody started screaming MVP that game when I scored a hat trick. So it was kind of other special stuff.
Jágr gets around Nedved and shoots. Score! Jaromír Jágr! It's a power play goal and his 3rd hat trick of the season. He has 49 goals. Jágr leads the league with 24 power play goals. Jágr's got the puck and saved by Esch. And did he take the puck away from Brashear and drove in, cut to the middle, and Esch makes a save, and the fans stand and admire the Jaromír.
And talking about hat tricks, I never forget this. You know, every time we played in Pittsburgh, you know, they were pretty harsh. They were booing you. And I remember this game. You went to the locker room. It's like, what happened? I was playing, and I'm like, is he hurt? What's going on? You came back, and it was almost like you came back, reset, and you scored a hat trick.
To Ward for Jágr, who scores! Jaromír Jágr against his former team. From Ward and Pony. Another one, and the Rangers score again. Jágr top corner. What a shot by Straka. Jágr shoots and scores. Jaromír Jágr. It's a power play goal and a hat trick.
I never forget that. It was so cool to see. But my question is, you recently had your jersey retired in Pittsburgh. And what did that mean to you? But also that relationship for so many years, going back there and play, and people all over you. Can you talk a little bit about that?
You know, on one side, I kind of understood that, you know, they're booing because, you know, you play for the other teams, and the fans, they don't want you to do good. They understand, you know, they know I play for them, but not anymore. so I understand the booing. But it was kind of sad because, you know, some stories the fans were saying, like, you know, I said something to make them mad. It never happened. But I think it's fine right now. It's fine right now, and I always loved Pittsburgh. There was the first city, you know, when I left, I was drafted by Pittsburgh Penguins, and all the people in Pittsburgh, maybe not all, but most of the people in Pittsburgh, they know I'm gonna have such a tough time. I was the first European to ever play for them. I didn't speak any English, so they kind of took me as their kid. You know, everybody wanted to help me when I was 18. Everybody, you know, I could do anything. I couldn't do any wrong in Pittsburgh when I was 18, 19 years old. I could go anywhere. You know, I felt the love. I felt like I'm their kid. You know, everybody feel like, you know, this is, you know, he needed help, and you know, that's why I'm so happy. Whatever happened last year when they retired my jersey, and it's finally happened.
The one thing that really impressed me with you is the passion for the game, you know, your commitment to the game. I love that, you know, especially as a rookie, to see that firsthand. And, you know, when we air this, I don't know if you officially retired or not, but you're 53 and you still play.
I still play, yes.
I mean, how can you, to the viewers, can you talk about how much you love the game and why? You know. Well,
you know, there's a love, and it's always been a love, and my parents never kind of pushed me, but they did something to make me love the game. And when you love something, and it doesn't matter if it is a work or if it is your hobby or if you're a family kid, you do it for them. You don't feel like you're working, or you don't feel like you do something for somebody, because there's a love. So, you know, the same thing I feel about hockey. For me, it's not a work. You know, to work extra, it's not work. It's like, it's appreciation. I want to be better and better every day, and no matter how old I am. On the other side, I had a gift maybe like nobody else for hockey. I know, and I just don't want to one day look back and say I didn't do this and I didn't do this when I could. You know, I just want to make sure I did everything for my job or for hockey to be the best I can be. And I don't want to one day sit and say if I could do this, you know. But on the other side, because I had so much, I would say talent, or, you know, I was pretty strong since I was a little kid, and even my dad said, you know, if you're gonna be like me, you're gonna be strongest at 40, and I felt like that. So in my DNA, I was pretty strong. I mean, my mother is kind of strong, my dad was strong. So in that area, I was gifted to. So it was a little bit easier for me than from anybody else.
So you always loved the process.
I love that, and I still do. I still, you know, because I feel like you can beat the system. Like I always said, you can beat the system. You know, and you know, if somebody say it's impossible to do it, well, you know, of course it's impossible if you never try. So I was always like that. I never listen to anybody, you know. And I believe when you listen to somebody, you always hit their limit. But if I did everything on my own and think about everything I do, you know, you cannot really hit the limit. Somebody else telling you what to do, you know. That was my psychology
very
stuff.
unique in the way
you
train and what time you trained.
Of course I do, because you know everybody's unique. Everybody's, you know, your body is different than his body or, you know, somebody else's body. But I have to find my way, you know, and you know, I believe in God. I believe that, you know, Holy Spirit inside of us telling us what to do, helping us, you know, and you just have to listen. You know, the happiness and everything, it's inside of you. You just have to cool down and listen. You know.
This first time I remember, you know, Cass, the trainer, he had to work so much putting weights in your equipment for practice. There were so many things. I was looking at you and was like, wow, the commitment to detail and just pushing yourself. It was incredible to watch.
I don't think you can do it without it. I don't think you can do it. You can do it on some level, but you have to beat the. If you want to be better than everybody else, you have to always look for the edge. You have to. Otherwise, you're just gonna be like everybody else, and you're gonna retire at 35, and you're just gonna hit the limit. But for me, there's no limit. You have to think differently than everybody else.
So the Rangers were celebrating 100 years, and when you think about the New York Rangers, your own experience, but also from the outside looking at the organization, with a couple words, what comes to mind when you think about this organization?
Well, history, original six. Look at how big the city is. It's bigger than our country. Our country, we got 10 million people. There's probably 15 all around. It's a special place. It's so special, and even when I played here, the service and everything else was on different level. And I remember I said, thanks God, I come here to play almost end of my hockey career, because if I would start it here in New York and get traded somewhere else, I don't think I would survive. But when you started somewhere where it's not that perfect, but Pittsburgh was good, but Rangers was on a different level. There was, you had everything, private planes and all the food on a plane. Oh man, it's like that was a special place.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible organization, and I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk about your time here, about the game, and personally, I just want to say you inspired me a lot coming here as a rookie. I mean, I watched you as a kid, and to be teammates with you and to see how you managed, the pressure and the commitment to the game as a rookie here was incredible.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time.
Hopefully the Rangers fans still remember me. They still remember I played here. Because,
of course you do.
That year, 2005, was a special year for me personally. And it's just, because when you look at how many guys score 50 goals, there's not many. There's only 4, and maybe 5. So, Wayne Gretzky didn't do it. I can say I did something Wayne Gretzky didn't do it. I did something Mark Messier didn't do it here. So I know, it doesn't may sound much, but to me it's a big honor to play for Rangers and have a year like that.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.